or the busy streets of Pine Plantation Road. As we continue to gather right here in the parish of St. Michael, we bring things closer to home. Some might say in the backyard. Andy Mr. Blood Armstrong takes us to his stomping ground where memories unfold. In the Pine Plantation Road to be exact.
I grew up on First Avenue Pine Plantation Road. That is just off Government Hill, and then the next gap would be Pine Road, which took you down to St. Winifred's and to Government House. Right, so I was on that gap, and my memories of growing up there were very, very fond because it was a big household. Aunts, uncles, and my first cousin Ray and I, and my brothers, we would always be, especially in the summer vacations or whatnot, we really, really enjoyed using what we call the gutter perk. We used to run around barefoot, and play cricket next to the house, marbles, whatever the case may be. We would make our own scooters and rollers, etc. So we always had a lot of fun. But my fond memories are when we would just get away from the house and we would hunt birds, and we would then cook those birds and have lunch, so that whenever we got back home and the food was ready, we were never hungry. We just used to have so much fun and running around the neighborhood. Less traffic, so we used to do games like we would have races right around the block, because you could come down the hill, go up the gap, right, wrong, and come down. And the neighborhood was quite close. There was a lot of young fellows in the neighborhood as well. So we grew up close together, and we played often, everything. With road tennis, we had a road tennis court right across the street from where I live as well. So we used to be there hanging often. At that time, some of the families in the neighborhood would be the Branches. You had the Williams. You had the Bishops up the hill. And there was the lady who lived next door, Miss Ford. Miss Ford, she used to actually, because we were Anglican and she was a Seventh-day Adventist, so I had a lot of church. My grand would let us go to church with her on Saturday mornings. Then we would go to church on Sunday mornings at St. Barnabas. We used to do 6:30 service. My grandmother, she was in the church choir, St. Barnabas Church Choir. So we would go to church, get up early, get ready, and go to the 6:30 service with my grandmother and my grandfather. And then, of course, it was Anglican, so it was quite reverent. And my favorite time of the year was Christmas, because one of my favorite Christmas hymns was "O Come All Ye Faithful." I really, really loved that. And then, as I got a little bit older, I then joined the church choir, which was the 9 o'clock church choir. It was myself and my cousin Ray Armstrong. We joined that choir. And one of my fondest memories was the day that we were auditioning for the choir. We were sopranos falsetto. So as Reverend Griffith at the time was going through, the scales and whatnot, we had this little competition of who was actually going to be able to sing the highest, and he said, at one point he stopped and he said, "You better stop before you guys hurt your voices," because we were just competing about, with each other, who would be able to hit the highest note, etc. But it was fun, and I would always remember that our first Christmas event where we did the Hallelujah chorus and the Amen, and it was really, really exciting at the time. Then, of course, Sunday school was always, a thing. We had to go to Sunday school. And Sunday school used to be at St. Giles Primary School. So we used to go to St. Barnabas, St. Giles, and of course the Seventh-day Adventist Church there on Government Hill as well. And I did mention Miss Ford, who used to take us to the Seventh-day Adventist on Saturday as well. When it came to vacation time, there was something called Vacation Bible School. You know, for about 2 weeks, we would then actually go to vacation Bible school at the same very Seventh-day Adventist. And that used to be a lot of fun because we did crafts and we did Bible studies. Of course, there were numerous kids from around the neighborhood who would come there, and we would always have a fun time. Then at the end of it all, you know, there was some project that you would have created that you took home and was really proud of. At that age, I didn't see any real big difference. The songs that we used to do, I should say, some of my favorite songs were the ones that we did at the Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah, some that, you know, I'd never forgotten at all. It was power, wonder working power. You know, that was one of my favorite songs to do when we went to the 7 days. But you know, the setup was basically almost the same. It's just 2 different days, a Saturday or a Sunday. But you know, it was quite interesting, and it was a lot of fun for me actually.
When town went to the country, it was always a fun time. Andy tells us more.
Excursions now, well, we used to do a lot of those either with church or with the family, because granddad would usually pack the car, grandma would pack the car, we would have food, drink, you know, and there was a lot of friends. They had a lot of friends, so we would all get together in the different cars and we would head down to the East Coast, or we would head to the beach, or in fact the beach was a regular thing on Sunday mornings with granddad, you know, or Saturday mornings with granddad. And but the excursions used to be so much fun, because I can remember one excursion where we had, I believe it was the East Coast, and we went there, we took out our picnic baskets, and we were just running up and down and playing in the hills as little children. So I vividly remember, you know, those memories of, you know, me and my cousins and my uncles and everybody just having a good time on the excursions. But we used to do those a lot.
A lot has changed over the years, but the extended family went way beyond blood. No pun intended. Back then, it was the community that raised a child. Here, a lot of life's lessons were learned, from home all the way to Miss Smith's shop.
There was a shop right there, Miss Smith's shop, you know, that my grandmother would often send us to for groceries whenever, you know, we needed to go there. A lot of money got lost between the house and Miss Smith's shop. And sometimes you got in a lot of trouble because, hey, as youngsters, you know, you're playing and you're walking and you're sent for whatever you were sent for, and when you got there, you either ain't had the money, or when you got the change, you lost the money. So it was fun growing up out there. And then there was Charles F. Broom right behind us as well, because once we went up the hill, sometimes we would pass through the area and pass just by Charles F. Broom and head on down to Miss Smith's shop, which was right opposite Springer School as well.
Once upon a Christmas, a young blood tells the story through the eyes of a child.
Wow, Christmas. Christmas was and still is to me one of my favorite times of the year. As a little boy, especially on Christmas Eve, let me tell you a story first and then go to what I think, you know, a Christmas tree probably looked like in my grandmother's house, because I would remember standing in the road in front of the house at a particular time of the day, just looking at the corner to see when the car, my grandfather's Hillman Hunter, would turn the corner, and it would either have a Christmas tree on the top or not, you know. So we looked forward to that, and I would just be there waiting. So as once that car turned the corner and we saw that tree, we were really excited. And they then allowed us to put the tree up. So we used to, you know, you used to get a paint scale, a paint tin, you know, empty paint tin. We would put the tree, we would nail the tree to the bottom, and then we would pack the make sure it was centered, of course. Then we would pack the paint tin with sand and rocks, etc., so that it was standing firm and good. Then we would wrap the paint tin with pretty paper, and then we would start decorating that tree. And when I think back, right, to the fact that we as youngsters used to decorate this tree, all right, and think about like letting my son decorate a tree. I know that tree had to look confused. It probably, to us, it probably looked fantastic, but they just let us do it, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And to this day, I still decorate. I have to have a decorated tree, and my tree has to be, because even if that tree at the time was a short tree, we were so small, it looked gigantic. So now that I'm an adult, from the time I got a little bit of height, I would make sure that I would buy a tree that is like 3 times taller than me at least, So I like a big tree. And I have a high roof, so yeah, you gotta go up in the air. But we had a lot of fun, and we really, really enjoyed Christmas. One of my favorite memories also is my mom and my aunt bringing home 3 albums one year. One was Nat King Cole, one was Nat King Cole, Bing Crosby, and Dean Martin, and the other one was the Salsoul Orchestra. And to this day, those songs are the ones that resonate most with me whenever Christmas time comes. And I think I was at that time too that my musical interest would have been piqued, because every Sunday they used to have I think it was the Boston Pops or something like that on the television. And, I would sit, and there wasn't anything else happening. So I would sit and I would watch that, and I would watch the man directing, conducting the orchestra. So knowing what an orchestra sounded like, when Christmas came and you started to learn these songs on these albums, and you're hearing the orchestra, I used to stand in front of the mirror, sing these songs, and conduct the orchestra and conduct the choir that was on the album. So I mean, I think that is where my musical interest may have started to develop, etc.
It is in the heart of the home in Pine Plantation Road that Andy's first love for music started to shine through.
Well, I started at St. Giles Nursery, then I went into St. Giles Boys. Had a fantastic time at St. Giles Boys as well. There's where I think my real performing started, because I remember doing a skit, and I was the baker. So my grandmother had to make the baker's outfit for me. And I remember also the first time I played the recorder. I was given a piece of music. I think it was God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, boo boo beep 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 beep, right? And I was playing the recorder, and when they gave me it, I probably looked at the name. I don't feel like reading music, right? I probably knew the song, and I played it. So they were impressed that I was reading the music, but I don't feel like reading music. I just felt like I knew the recorder, and I played the song that I knew in my head. But I was always kind of like, really quick with the instruments and learning songs and that kind of stuff. So there is where I started to hone my musical skills. Then I left there and I passed for the law school. And boy, oh boy, law school was a lot of fun. Law school days were great days. I met my good friends Terry Arthur there. I met George Jones there. And we played in the school band together. So school was quite interesting. Very, very interesting. A lot of good stuff happened there. In fact, that is when I also knew that, although I didn't take it seriously at the time, that I probably was supposed to be an entertainer. Because when your PE teacher can blow you off the field, what are you doing, son? I'm playing football, sir. He said, listen to me. What if you go out there, fool around, and fall down and break your hand? Then you can't play the piano. What is man talking about? Right? So he said, as long as I got PE, go to the music room. So I didn't have to do PE no more. Right? I could go to the music room and play music. Right? And there's where, I developed and developed and developed. And then, there was like, school was so much fun, I'm telling you. And I had a little group that we used to walk around, and we were together, and we used to travel, and we used to borrow, I ain't gonna call your name. We used to borrow teacher car. And if you felt good jolly riding, I'll bring it back. school, but we had fun, you know, and things know that if I was a find out that my child is doing it, will freak out, yeah. Right? But yeah, and oh, I remember one time my mother used to make rotis, right? And so I decided, well, I can't school these rotis and I can sell these rotis, but I went to the authorities first. I went to the headmaster. The headmaster told me, well, I should go to the canteen. The canteen said I should go back to the headmaster. So I decided these years turning me wrong. I can put the rotis in my bag and I can sell them. Man, the teachers buy rotis, the children buy rotis. The rotis that we used to go every day real fast, right? I carried home the money to mommy. And next day, rotis again. And the rotis were a big hit. So, you know, but I mean, I tried to go through the legal process. Too much bureaucracy, man. So I just sold the rotis out my bag. And yeah, school was fun. School was fun.
Not sure if it was grandma or mom that gave him an appreciation for good food, but one thing is for certain, the matriarchs knew their way around the kitchen.
As a youngster, I wasn't a big eater. I was not a big eater. I wasn't really into food at all. In fact, my aunt, when I was in nursery school, my aunt used to walk from where we lived out to St. Giles Nursery so that I would eat because I would refuse to eat food. And then I remember my grandmother used to do they would call cornmeal pap for me because I refused to eat anything solid. I didn't want the cocoa, and I certainly didn't want the okras, right? And I hated the smell of red herring. Oh my goodness, I probably still do actually, you know. But yeah, I do like, and I'm not a fish fan, but I like saltfish, and I like sardines, and I like tuna, right? So I would, you know, but if you give me fish now and it tastes good, I would eat it, right? But I wouldn't go to a restaurant and the first thing I would look for is a fish. I like red meat now, you know. Give me some beef, give me some lamb, you know, give me some oxtail, and give me the other white meat, the pork. Most of all, give me some pork, you know, so, and chicken, right? But yeah, the food, my grandmother and my mom, when them do a stew, especially my mom, when she did a beef stew, or she used to use pawpaw shine. It's pawpaw, right? And the meat will come out so sweet and soft and tender. A stew back then, I don't know if they got a stew now that can match a stew from back then. And talking about stew, my aunt and my mom, they used to always have a lot of parties at the house. And my bedroom was the bedroom by the kitchen. So as a little boy, you gotta go in there, you know, be seen and not heard, or not seen, or whatever the case may be. Well, when the big people start to come, you had to get in that room. But we will always be peeping out, looking into the kitchen for when the rice and stew done, cause, you know. And so when I started to eat, I really started to eat. And a good dance rice and stew was like nothing else at all. Don't care if you cook that same rice and stew a day in a week, it just don't taste the same as when, you know, it for a dance, right? So we used to have so much fun right there in First Avenue Pine Plantation Road, St. Michael. You know, a lot of fantastic memories.
And then there were the dances.
I was so young, but I would remember. You always knew when something was going to happen. Yeah, they would take all the furniture and they would just push the tables and the chairs and everything into the bedrooms so that there was space. And then once people started to come, there would be music, those oldies. In fact, when I got older, some of those songs that stuck in my head, and I started working at #1 record shop is when I started to collect music, because I said, well, I know this song from a little boy. And then I realized who the singer was, and I learned who the band was, and I just started, in fact, so much so that I would buy CDs and not open the CD as a collector item. So I got CDs home with the plastic still on. Because I would listen to music in the shop, but I would buy the CD, take it home, and just rest it there to have as a collector's item. So I discovered who the singers were, and I started to learn, because you could read all the information on the albums and that kind of stuff. And so my musical interest even started to peak a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And those parties were always really, really good parties. There was one party that I always remember, because, and up to just a couple of weeks ago, I was there at my granny's house, and actually it was on the night that she passed, and I was standing there, and someone was leaning on the rail, yeah, because you have to come up some steps to a platform into the veranda. And as that person was leaning there, I said, those rails have been there for a long, long time, and you can see that some of them are being reinforced. Please don't lean on it, because I remembered that at one of the parties, a guy, I think he had a little too much alcohol. He sat on the top of the rail, and then the next thing you know, he was on the ground, right? And the report is, he never actually really recovered, Yeah, it was a high fall, because it's fairly high, and he hit his head and that kind of stuff. So I always remember that as a little boy from that particular party.
They say that pigeons have wide ear holes. Now, Blood, as a young boy, could not attend these well-known dances, but he shares some stories that would make you smile.
Popular places to go that I hear about, because the truth is, right, I've heard people talking about the Rendezvous Room, Alexander, right? Alexandra Club, or Alexander 1 and 2, right? Those two, especially as a teenager, young fella, I would hear about those two. And when I ask the person that is talking about this place that they went to how old they were, right? I wondered to myself, what was I doing, or where was I going? I certainly wasn't going to the clubs, because this person is a couple of years younger than me and is telling me about the Rendezvous Room and Alexander, places that I've never been to Alexander. And the Rendezvous Room, I think I only went to that after the name had changed, right? And when I was actually playing in a band, and we played at that venue, but I had never really partied there. My memory of my first real fete, I used to go to these school fairs, and my first real fete was actually, I think it was a school party that was held at a place there in going up Maxwell Main Road on the left hand side. I think it's a kind of a rundown Chinese restaurant or something like that. But I don't think anything happens there now. But I can remember looking up over that balcony, and I believe that night was when me and some of the fellas had rented a car. And that is another story, that car, boy. So that car story is something else. Yeah, we pushed that car. The car broke down before the first man get dropped home. We pushed the car, we drove the car, and we pushed the car, drop off girls, push the car, drop off a fella, push the car. He lost my car. I had to sleep in the car. I had to sleep in the car till the next morning. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
There's certainly a lot to be said about growing up near to the city. Pine Plantation Road and its environs is just neatly nestled, close to town, but yet suburbia continues to thrive. It is the place where people learned a lot from their communities and those within the community. It's the place where, well, you had an opportunity to gather. You see, gathering took place even back then, and you got a chance to grow. You've been watching My Community right here in the Pine St Michael. I'm Kimberly Skeet. Join us again as we continue to journey and to gather.